Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we today? How is everybody? Welcome. This is Rush to Judgment with Jessica, and I'm Jessica. How is everybody? If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Good to see everybody. Well, today we're doing a true crime episode. This is where I just sit and I do a reaction to a true crime event. This story is about a young girl, Nicole Lovell. Um, this is one I came across, and it was one I thought might be a particularly good, good, bad. I'm not sure. Um, for a parent, maybe just bring some awareness, kids meeting up with or having such an online presence these days, meeting up with people online that they think are a certain type of person or that they trust. Turns out they're not what they think they are. But, that's something that we deal with pretty frequently, and something that I know as a parent of young children myself that I worry about anyway. And I try to have that open conversation with them in regards to, don't do that, and here's why. So hopefully they heed the warnings. Yeah. So here is, we can go ahead and get started. Again, if you're new here, or, this is one of the first videos, just like to point out, I don't have a special degree in anything. I don't specialize in anything. I merely am here to give my commentary and my opinions and my thoughts, and, put out there some questions and concerns and all of that into the atmosphere, and maybe get some, answers in return. Or maybe, just put it out there into the world and see what happens. But, you like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, I enjoy doing these and just kind of seeing what's out there in the world. I also do trial videos. If you go look through my page and subscribe, you'll get notifications when I put out new videos. I just finished another trial stream for a relatively old trial, but I'm gonna start doing some more current ones now that there's some that are interesting that are popping up. But the other ones were relatively old and that I was interested in. One was actually after watching a true crime episode thing that I had more questions and found the actual stream of the trial. So I picked that one and decided to stream that one a little bit and get some more questions answered and follow that one a little bit. So go check those out, see what you think, and feel free to tell me what you think in the comments. Like I said, I've done a couple more recent react videos to a couple new cases that are coming up, and should be pretty interesting to cover those in the coming months. But, trials, they get pushed back some. So, in the meantime, I do the true crime, and then if I find another trial that strikes my fancy, I might pick that up along in between. You never know. So we'll get this one started and see what happens. Turn the closed caption on. Watch this at the regular speed because it goes pretty fast usually.
It's every parent's nightmare. An adolescent seeking adventure and validation ventures out into the night to meet up with an online friend who turns out to be a murderous predator. On January 27, 2016, 13-year-old Nicole Lovell did just that and fell victim to something that was very much out of her control.
Nicole, honey, if you see this, if you're out there, you can come to me. I'm not mad at you. I'm worried about you. Your family's worried about you.
That is so scary.
Come home.
Today's case examines the disappearance and murder that claimed the life of a young and vulnerable resident of Blacksburg, Virginia, a college town that is sadly no stranger to terrible acts occurring out of the blue and shaking the community to its core. What first appeared to be a child running away in the middle of the night soon turned into a desperate search and race against the clock to return her home and to the life-saving medication that she needed. Nearly 1,000 volunteers fanned out across the town and nearby campus of Virginia Tech and the mountainous Montgomery County. Nicole Madison Lovell's young life, however, had ended not long after she snuck out of her home on that Wednesday night around 1 a.m. Her body would be found callously disposed across the state line in a rural part of North Carolina's Surry County. Who could have killed this young girl and why? What led her to leave the apartment through the bedroom window that night? Who did she encounter? Did she plan on meeting them? And what happened to bring her to this terrible end? This is the tragic story of Nicole Lovell. Before we begin, we would like to send our deepest sympathies to the loved ones of Nicole Lovell, who fell victim to the abominable acts described in this case.
I could never imagine. It'd be devastating.
January in the mountains of Western Virginia can be cold with long nights. Icy winds are commonplace. Fallen snow tends to linger, sometimes for a week or two in the deep, shady spots that are everywhere. It was just such a night when Tammy Weeks saw her 13-year-old daughter to bed. It was workday for the Montgomery County school system, and Nicole wouldn't have to get up early to head away to middle school, a rare bonus day off for students. There was no way for her mother to know that after that bedroom door was shut, the girl would slide her dresser over in front of the door, send a text to a waiting compatriot, and then make preparations to make her escape. Nicole had made plans for something very different than a kid's normal no-school plan of sleeping late and watching TV. At around 1 a.m., Nicole slid open the window to her room. She grabbed a dark blue blanket with a Minions character emblazoned on it and headed out for the night, backpack and cell phone in hand. Nearby, a car waited for her as she crunched through the patchy snow on the ground. The roads were plowed and clear. She and her internet boyfriend were making their escape. Adventure awaited. And then things went horribly wrong for her. At first, Nicole's mother discovered the girl was gone and how she had left the home at the Lantern Ridge Apartments on Fairfax Road. The window had been left open all night. Tammy Weeks immediately reported her daughter missing to local law enforcement agencies.
Nicole, honey, if you see this, if you're out there, you can come to me. I'm not mad at you. I'm worried about you. Your family's worried about you. Just come home. At
the age of 10 months old, Nicole had received a liver transplant, something that would affect her for every day of her life. She required anti-rejection medicines twice a day to remain healthy. If she missed more than a dose or two, the problems that she could face could turn deadly.
Been without her medications for 3 days, and I know that we're in a
a situation where if she doesn't get her medication and get it fast, that, you know, my daughter's going to die.
As local television and radio stations broadcasted their alerts about the missing girl, police, fire, and rescue personnel throughout the area moved quickly through the community to begin their search. Numerous community members familiar with the area's many forests and mountainous terrain joined in the efforts. Students from nearby Virginia Tech swung into action as well, and drones were used to search the area from the sky. The Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets had also joined in the search as well. Blacksburg and Virginia Tech had developed an incredibly tight-knit and supportive community in the recent years. On April 16, 2007, Seung Hui Cho went on a killing spree on that campus that killed 32 people and wounded an additional 17.
I remember that.
Devastated by what was then the largest mass shooting in American history, Blacksburg and the college community leaned on each other and somehow made it through that devastating loss. Now, on this day, they worked together desperately to find this young girl. It would be on the third day that her body, naked, left down an embankment in a wooded area, was found. The body was located just across the state line in neighboring Surry County, North Carolina. Just off of North Carolina Route 89, it may have seemed like an out-of-the-way location for people unfamiliar to the area, but in fact, it was not very far from a moderately traveled road. As the region was searched, investigators were given an important key to the mystery by Nicole's own hand. On a wall in her bedroom, the young woman had scribbled usernames and passwords for her online social media apps, including ones like Omegle and Kik. Popular among teens, the site offers a chance to chat with and sometimes see other people in an anonymous way. That anonymity and with no actual oversight have led to those sites gaining a reputation as a hunting ground for predators and groomers. Nicole's mother, Tammy, told investigators that she had found Kik on her daughter's phone prior to her disappearance and made her delete it. It had now become obvious that Nicole had gone back to those apps and had been using them extensively. Those usernames and passwords turned out to be the key that began unlocking this terrible case. Experts were able to go into her accounts and backtrack through her texts, photos, and other communications to build a profile of her activities. Outside of traffic to her school friends and family, there was a secret relationship with an older man, a college student at nearby Virginia Tech. Online, Nicole's persona was one filled with the angst felt by many middle schoolers just entering their teen years. She didn't feel understood or loved. She craved attention. She wanted someone to see her as an adult. She wanted someone to accept her for her appearance, always having felt that the scars left from her early life surgeries were unattractive. She found someone willing to look past that, or found a person looking for someone with very specific vulnerabilities. She found a predator. Online, he called himself Dr. Tombstone. An FBI cyber squad was able to obtain the data trail from Nicole's communications on the Kik app, working with the company that owned and operated the service. It quickly became apparent that the only person the young girl had communicated with in the days leading up to her disappearance had been this Dr. Tombstone. Cyber detectives were able to find out that the username was registered to a David A. and that it was linked to a Gmail account. That account led directly to a young man named David Eisenhower.
Well,
David Eisenhower, 18 at the time, was a freshman at Virginia Tech. Drawn to the college by its stellar engineering program, David also ran track and had been a star athlete back home at the Wild Lake High School just outside of Baltimore, Maryland. He had even been featured as an Athlete of the Week in one of the local television station's news broadcasts during his senior year. 3 times he had won distance races at the Maryland State Championships during his high school times.
I will personally not stop until I reach my peak performance.
Outwardly, he didn't look any different from any other freshman coming to the large university that year. He made some friends at school, in classes, and on the track team. Most were just acquaintances, though David had struggled to make a place for himself. He had a penchant for telling offbeat stories in a way to portray himself as someone more experienced and worldly than he really was. Stories that often included unlikely occurrences or just out-and-out lame attempts to build himself up. Stories of his drinking exploits, classmates would say, didn't make sense, and often ended up with him saying that he was passed out and didn't remember what happened next. He quickly developed a credibility problem, one that was often attributed to him just trying too hard to impress others. He did make one very close friend on campus, though. Natalie Keepers was also a student at Virginia Tech and majoring in engineering. She had also come from Eastern Maryland to the mountains of Western Virginia. Bookish and serious, the 20-year-old young woman had dated Eisenhower for a short period of time after arriving on campus, but their relationship quickly turned into a friendship, although a very deep one. Or at least, that's how their stories went. Sometime during the autumn, David had made a new friend in Blacksburg, but this time it was an online one. Starting out on Omegle, he began chatting with Nicole Lovell. He would maintain that at the time he thought she was 16 or 17 years old. She, however, was only 13 years old and apparently didn't do anything to change his mind as the two talked and exchanged messages. In December 2015, the two met up, and it was impossible for Nicole to conceal her age anymore. Maybe Eisenhower was surprised. Maybe he had already puzzled it out and decided that he didn't care. Following urges that would lead them on a terrible collision course. There was no admission of any sexual contact at their first meeting, but something in their relationship changed. Eisenhower's actions immediately thereafter began to point to the idea that he felt he had crossed some kind of personal line, one that he could not take back. He felt dread for what his actions could bring down on him. Later at the trial, Montgomery County Commonwealth Attorney Mary Pettit told the court that he, Eisenhower, had a problem, and his problem is Nicole Lovell. He decided that this relationship with this underage girl was a serious problem. Eisenhower turned to his only close friend at the school, and Natalie Keepers responded with a willingness to help him take care of the problem, no matter how far they might have to go. David had a serious problem to find a way out of, but Natalie now had something she could sink her teeth into. Perhaps she still loved David, and this was a bonding event for the two in her mind. Maybe this presented some opportunities to indulge in very dark and secret sides of their personalities. Was it just a desperate man and a friend working together to solve a problem? Or was it a case of a borderline psychopath and a closeted sociopath finding each other in the midst of an opportunity to indulge their darker sides? Prosecutors and defense attorneys would eventually wrestle over that very important distinction. Questions of her willingness, her enthusiasm for solving this problem, and her actions on the day of the killing would haunt the proceedings and actually form part of Eisenhower's defense during the trial. 3 days after the disappearance, with the searches going on throughout the region, a candlelight vigil was organized for Nicole Lovell and her family. Hundreds from the community descended upon the Lantern Ridge apartments, where they prayed for her safe return, sang hymns, and provided support for her family and each other. A couple of counties away to the south, just across the North Carolina state line, law enforcement officers made the grisly discovery that everyone had feared. The naked body of a young girl was found down off of a roadway in a wooded area of Surry County. Officers from Blacksburg were called to the scene to help make the initial identification, one that was later verified by her next of kin. Nicole had been found, and the very worst case scenario had happened. As the body was recovered and the scene secured and probed by forensic officers from both states and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, back in Blacksburg, the net was closing on their newly discovered suspects. Armed with Nicole's online data evidence, Blacksburg police and officers from the Virginia Tech Police, along with an FBI agent, brought David Eisenhower in for questioning. Nicole Weeks was brought in as well. Both were initially cooperative with police, and official arrests were slow-played as they gathered more information.
This investigation is far from over as we're continuing to conduct multiple interviews and processing additional evidence related to this crime. The focus of this investigation is to now reconstruct the timeline leading up to Nicole's tragic death.
A very preliminary determination of the cause of death is stabbing.
Online data had led officials to bring the pair in for questioning. The discovery of Nicole's obviously murdered and disposed of body led to the arrest, and then the physical evidence began pouring in. The two began to talk and individually laid out details of what had gone down. Their cell phones provided both a timeline and a roadmap for the events leading up to that night and the following day. Keepers told investigators that David had confided of the relationship to her and the difficulties he had been having. She said he claimed to have met her at a party and feared that he had slept with her but couldn't remember everything because he had passed out and woken up in a ditch the next morning. In light of what he said, the listener would remember David's purported penchant for spinning outlandish tales of his drinking that always ended up with him passing out or blacking out. Those tales never rang true to those who heard them. Did the event really happen that way, or was it just him falling back on a stock story that he didn't realize was never really believable? No one can say, but he and Keepers moved forward with the stated worry that he could have gotten the young girl pregnant. Keepers said Eisenhower told her that he had tried to cool down the relationship with Nicole and wanted to stop communicating with her because he feared being arrested for their relationship if it was found out. He would later tell Keepers that Nicole said that she would kill herself if he broke off the relationship. Somehow, under the specter of a possible pregnancy and being found out, Eisenhower and Keepers came to the conclusion that a permanent solution was needed. In their eyes, Nicole's death was the only answer. The two began concocting their plan, sometimes by text. Both,
any of that
in
even
court,
happen?
would base their defenses on the enthusiasm that the
Like,
other
but did
showed for
that
the crime,
actually
while
happen?
playing up their own
Or
reluctance.
did
The day
they make
before the
that shit up?
abduction, cell phone GPS showed both Eisenhower and Keepers out and about making their plans and gathering their necessary materials. The day before Nicole's disappearance, the two went to a local Walmart and purchased a large garden shovel. Security cameras captured the two walking out after their purchase, carrying the shovel, which would match the appearance of one found later with Nicole's blood on it. The night of Nicole's disappearance, GPS locating services showed the two at a cookout fast food restaurant in Blacksburg. The two shared a meal, made the final preparations, and put their plan into action. Keepers claims that she was not present during the next step, but did not dispute that she was involved in the planning and what followed. Eisenhower coordinates with Nicole, and she awaits his arrival. Her dresser is pushed to block the bedroom door. He pulls up outside. Nicole grabs her coat, backpack, and cell phone, and the dark blue Minions blanket. She slides the window open, climbs out,
What a
and
fucking
gets into
Minions
his car,
blanket, y'all.
and the pair drive away.
She was a
GPS
fucking
tracking
child.
shows the car arriving at a location on Craig Creek Road near the Virginia Tech campus. Craig Creek Road is a single-lane road through a wooded area. Rural houses and trailers along the road are often widely spaced, and sometimes there's no line of sight from one neighbor's house to the next. On this cold Wednesday night, snow on the ground and a fading moon shone overhead through partly cloudy skies. Temperatures were falling quickly as the two motored down what turned out to be a dark and lonely road with no street lights. Then Eisenhower stopped the car. It was 1:02 a.m. The two got out. There is no way to know what Nicole was thinking at that moment, but Eisenhower's next steps were laid out by the autopsy report given to the court. Nicole was struck by a shovel in the neck, breaking one of her vertebrae.
Oh my
Still alive,
God.
she fell to the ground, and Eisenhower began stabbing her.
Oh my
In the
God.
end, she was stabbed 14 times, 7 times in the head and face,
Oh,
and 7
God.
times in the chest. The fatal wound was from the hit that slashed her throat. Nicole Madison Lovell, a child who
Oh,
had survived a
God.
liver transplant, who was loved by her extended family and numerous friends, died on a lonely road on a cold January night, the victim of
For
cold-blooded murder.
nothing.
Eisenhower then took her lifeless body and dumped it into the trunk of his car. Her other items, including her Minion's security blanket, were tossed in as well, along with a shovel and the knife. He got back into his car and headed home. He'd go in and spend the night in a warm home, possibly haunted by his actions, while Nicole's body stayed out in temperatures that would drop into the mid-20s before first light. No one along that road would report anything out of the ordinary that night. The murder passes unnoticed into the wee hours of the morning. People sleep in preparation for the coming workday, completely unaware of the evil that had passed them by. Eisenhower would text Keepers and put into motion their next terrible step of their plan. The next day, the pair would climb into his car and head off to a secluded spot just across the North Carolina line. Texts on Eisenhower's phone show that he had asked an unnamed man in Pulaski, Virginia, if he knew of a place to dispose of a body. Police determined
Really?
that man did not know Eisenhower was serious and thought he was joking. Driving down North Carolina Route
You would
89,
text
the
somebody
pair
and
found
say,
a
"Hey,
likely
where can I
spot,
dump a
one
body?"
somewhat near a property owned by
Haha,
a member
JK,
of
bro.
Eisenhower's extended family. Nicole's body was stripped and cleaned to remove any evidence and then dumped down a wooded embankment. Text between the two showed that they thought the cold weather would keep the smell down and that in such an area nature would completely dispose of the body within a couple of weeks. Online searches by Eisenhower prior to the murder showed that he had sought out answers to questions such as, how long does it take to burn a body? What is used as ID on a
Oh,
body?
Google
His inability
searches.
to find the right answer, well, certainly contributed to his downfall. Nicole's body was found and found intact. Up until that moment, the evidence that had been piling up had been mostly electronic. In the police station, Eisenhower quit talking before long, but keepers just kept on. Now, beyond the electronics
course you
and the
did.
words, physical
Whoever
evidence of
talks
a murder was
most
on
gets the
hand,
best
and
deal.
evidence who had done the murder was being collected by forensic experts. At the scene of the body, evidence was collected and rolls of skin were found under Nicole's nails. Completely missed in the efforts to wipe down the body, the bits of skin would provide the DNA evidence that she had scratched Eisenhower before she had been slain. Other law enforcement officers and forensic teams began searching the dumpsters and bins at Virginia Tech. A dive team searched the pond on campus. Then a bottle of Clorox and numerous wipes coated with brown stains were found in a dumpster. Blood traces were later found in the trunk of Eisenhower's car. Potentially the most damning evidence was a bag found among Keeper's possessions. Bloody clothing and the very distinctive dark blue Minions blanket had been retained and hidden away. Perhaps it was evidence to be disposed of later. Perhaps it was some kind of grisly trophy.
Why you look mad,
Blood
bro?
was also found on the toe of Keeper's boots, another thing seemingly missed in the pair's post-murder cleanup efforts.
Blood gets
Eisenhower
everywhere.
and Keepers were formally arrested and charged with their part in the abduction and murder of Nicole Lovell, as well as for the disposal of the body. Both pled not guilty to the charges offered against them, but their individual defenses rested not so much on not being involved, but in fact who was the mastermind behind it.
Does it
Eisenhower's
matter?
defense insinuated that Keepers was the mastermind behind the killing and had manipulated
both
him into
involved.
doing the deed. They attempted to nullify her testimony on the grounds that much of it had been given to police before she was made aware of her Miranda rights. At times, she was painted in the light of a sociopath playing out a role, excited by the thrill of killing and the planning that went into it. On Keeper's side, attorneys argued that she had no hand in the actual killing of Nicole Lovell. Evidence could not place her at that point of the murder, although it was nearly impossible to argue that she didn't have input before the event and an active hand in the disposal of the body and the concealment of evidence.
I am sorry for the pain that my actions have caused Nicole Lovell and her family. Nothing can ever undo what has been done, and for that, I am deeply, sincerely, and forever sorry.
In the
Don't believe not a
end, David
word
Eisenhower was
came out of
found
your
guilty
mouth.
on all charges and received sentences of 10 years for the abduction, 60 years for the first-degree murder, and 5 years for concealing Nicole's body. 15 years of the sentence would be suspended, and 20 years of probation would be tacked onto the sentence. He was also ordered to pay $5,130 in restitution.
Are you
Natalie
kidding me?
Keepers would also be found guilty as an accessory to the murder in the first degree. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison for the accessory charge and an additional 5 years for concealing the body. 5 years of the sentence was suspended, and she was given twice the recommended 20-year minimum sentence for the accessory to murder charge. The pair will definitely spend the majority of their lives behind bars, but it will never bring Nicole Lovell back.
They
She
should
chased
spend the
growing
rest
up
of their
and
life
acceptance
behind
as
bars.
so many
What do
adolescents
you
do.
mean?
But thanks to this pair, she'd never get the opportunity to find her own way in the world, to find pride and
They
happiness in
planned out
herself.
an
Her family was
abduction,
left
a
shattered and wounded
murder.
in a way that can never completely heal. The vile act on that cold January night just leaves a cold, empty spot in the mountain town of Blacksburg, Virginia. And the story leaves a cold chill in the heart of any parent who has struggled along with their child going through those tough years of adolescence. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the
Could you imagine? How do they even get it? They're gonna, oh, it's okay. They're gonna spend the majority of their lives in prison. Motherfucker, spend the rest of your lives in prison. Get the hell out of here. Jesus. You planned it. You plotted it. You killed a little girl, an innocent little girl. And then you and your little girlfriend covered it up. And you Google searched different ways to hide the body, get rid of the body. This wasn't just something, oh, heat of passion, whatever. No, you go to prison for the rest of your life, forever. And you get no outs. Both of you. I don't care who did the crime. You both knew about it. You both planned it. And you both covered it up. I'm mad about that. Don't the idea that you get to get out, get the fuck out of here. Oh God, get out of here with that. That's absurd and ridiculous to me. But you all, let me know what you think in the comments below. Comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Because I think it's horse shit. But yeah, that poor girl. She was just meeting her boyfriend. She was 13. 13. She had no idea. She had no idea. And she just trusted this man. And he freaking stabbed her 14 times. Oh my God. And then dumped her body. Like she didn't even matter. Like that just makes me sick. Makes me sick. Like I can't. I cannot. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Parents, watch your babies. Let them know. Don't trust people on the internet. They are not always who they say they are. If you are ever going to meet somebody that you meet on the internet, public places, always, always, always. Kids, always trust your parents enough to let them know what's going on in your life. Parents, be involved in your kids' life. Check their phones. Go through their phones. They'll get mad at you. It's fine. You're not supposed to be their friends. They're not supposed to like that. Check their phones. Check their messages. Check their internet activity. Check that. Parental controls. All of that. It's okay. You're allowed to do that. You know why? Because you're the parent. And you can do that. So, just watch the babies, y'all. Watch them. There are sick, sick people in this world that they just want to hurt people. And they just want to do bad things. And it is unfortunate and sad and horrific. And it sucks. So just watch your babies. All right. But that's all I got for this one. But like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will catch you on the next one. Oh, see you later. Ah! My mouse stopped working. I couldn't do the things. Okay, do it again. Do it again. Okay, bye.